Good morning, children. Welcome to today's class. In this class, we will discuss about conservation of plants and animals. In class 7th, you have already discussed about forest, its importance in our life. And in this class, it is just a continuation of the same thing with a little elaboration. In today's class, the main objectives are deforestation, its causes and consequences, desertification, biodiversity, wildlife sanctuary, national park, biosphere reserve, endemic and endangered animals. Now, what is deforestation? Deforestation means clearing of forest and using that land for other purposes. You already know that we cut trees to procure cultivation land, to procure settlement land, to set up factories. So that leads to deforestation. But before that, we should know why it occurs first of all, causes of deforestation. There are natural causes of deforestation also. It is not always a man-made human activity. Naturally, vast areas of forest get burns only due to an occasional lightning, which other settled people can never ever know, so that it cannot be extinguished easily. Even today, a huge stretches of forest in the Amazon evergreen forest in the country Brazil, it is going on, it is keeping on burning even today. Now, and another cause is severe drought. Now, if it doesn't rain for a longer period of time, even the forest stretches, it gets disappeared, they die off due to lack of water. Next is by human activities. Now, human beings, they are growing in number, their population is increasing, and therefore there is rise in need of either food or shelter. All of these we get from trees only. So in order to get space for cultivation, we need to cut the trees. So procuring land for cultivation. Then building houses and factories. How? Because increase in population means they need more space to stay. So building houses and factories also is one of the reasons why deforestation takes place. Using wood for fuel and furniture. Fuel and furniture, it is the most common use of wood. Either we use it as a fuel wood or timber for making furniture. So large scale production requires clearing of forest. So these are the main causes of deforestation. I hope many more causes are there which you can add on your own. Now, if forests are cut down, what would be the end result? See, let us discuss. Consequences of deforestation. Increase in level of carbon dioxide leading to rise in temperature, which is known as global warming. How this happens? You know that plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen during photosynthesis. Now, if we clear large stretches of forest, that emission of oxygen and taking in of carbon dioxide reduces. So, the level of carbon dioxide in the air increases. Carbon dioxide is such a gas which traps the radiated heat from the Earth's surface and makes its atmosphere warm. This leads to global warming. Second important consequence is decrease in rainfall leading to lowering of groundwater. You all know that forests are the main reason for occurrence of rain. Now, if there are no forests, definitely rainfall will be reduced. If rainfall is not there, the groundwater, whose main source is rainwater, it gets depleted because water cannot infiltrate inside the ground and the groundwater cannot get recharged. So that leads to lowering of groundwater. Then decrease in fertility of the soil. When the forest cover is open, naturally the humus content of the soil decreases and that leads to desertification. First the fertility goes and then no other plant can grow in that barren land and gradually it forms a desert. The next, it results in drought in one hand and flood on the other. How is it so? It is simple. If rain doesn't occur for a longer period of time in a particular area, drought occurs. But how floods? You know that forests protect the top soil. The roots of the forest trees capture the soil very tight, and whenever it rains heavily, the soil erosion does not take place. But when there is no forest cover, the top soil gets eroded easily, and then the water, instead of infiltrating down into the ground, it remains on the surface as a surface runoff. That surface runoff only results in floods. Next is loss of wildlife and biodiversity. Now, forests are the main habitat or the shelter or the home of many wild organisms as well as plants. Now, if the forest is not there, where these wild animals will stay? So definitely they get extinct. This is a huge loss for different life forms in our country. Next, see, biodiversity. Now what is biodiversity? It refers to the variety of organisms like plants, animals and microorganisms existing on the earth. And this loss of biodiversity and extinction of wildlife results in imbalance of nature. Loss of wildlife takes place only due to deforestation. Now, when deforestation takes place, this home is destroyed, their home is destroyed. The different variety of organisms, they become extinct, and that creates a imbalance in the food chain. In class 7th, you have studied about food chain, how the grasshopper eats the grass and the grasshopper is eaten by a frog and the frog is eaten by a snake and the snake is eaten by an eagle. So this is how organisms are linked with each other. If one of the organisms get extinct in this chain, naturally the other organisms, survival of other organisms are also at stake. This is how varied life forms, they create imbalance in nature if that variation is not there. So therefore it is very important to preserve the biodiversity. So to protect the biodiversity means to protect the different varieties of plants and animals found on the earth. Next, how this can be? Desertification. Desertification, as I have already introduced, how desertification takes place, that I have already introduced, that the topsoil of the earth's surface gets depleted due to loss of this forest, and then when the topsoil is eroded due to rainwater or flood or something, the topsoil gets eroded. What remains is the hard rocky surface which is present below the soil. Now that rocky barren land gets exposed to the physical forces, and then gradually it withers and finally turns into sand pieces. Okay, sand particles. So this is how deserts takes place. Removal of topsoil exposes the hard rocky layers which withers and gradually gets converted into desert. This is called desertification. Now come to this biodiversity protection. These are protected areas which are earmarked by government to protect the plant and animal along with their habitat. We cannot protect a single animal, keep it in our home and give shelter and give food and protect them. They need to be protected along with their habitat. And these protected areas are of three types. The first one is wildlife sanctuary, second is a national park, and the third is biosphere reserve. First come to wildlife sanctuaries. Wildlife sanctuaries, these are areas reserved for providing protection and natural living condition to wild animals. This is like a sanctuary, means a shelter place for the animals whose number is very less. They need protection. Therefore, we create wildlife sanctuary for such animals. Example of a wildlife sanctuary is your Pachmarhi Wildlife Sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh, which preserves all these species. Now, next is National Park. National parks are preserved whole sets of ecosystem, landscape, flora, fauna and historic objects of an area. Now, this is a little bit larger than the sanctuaries. It is a larger area and it protects the entire ecosystem. Ecosystem means the plants and the surrounding and the interaction between between them. Everything is preserved as it is, along with some historical monuments which are of use. Okay, so this is the gate of Satpura Tiger Reserve in Pachmarhi, which is the first national park, I think, first tiger reserve in India. Then come to biosphere reserves. Biosphere reserves are areas meant for conservation of biodiversity and culture of tribal people inhabiting that area. Now, biodiversity, entire variety of plants and animals are conserved in that biosphere reserve. These are huge areas. A biosphere reserve can include many sanctuaries and national parks in them. And these reserves are so large that they include the settlement area for tribal people also. Even the tribal people's home are not disturbed because they are completely combined. They are so closely interact with their forest and the surrounding that we can, along with protection to the organisms, habitat of the plant and animal, we protect the habitat of the tribal people also. So, it is the largest of all protected areas and may contain other protected areas in it, like Pachmarhi Biosphere Reserve consists of national park and 2 wildlife sanctuaries named Bori and Pachmarhi. Then come to endemic species. Endemic animals are those species of plant and animal which are found exclusively in a particular area, and that too naturally. You can say that we import some animals and we keep it here for our need. Like you can find camel, giraffe, then zebra in zoos. These are not endemic to that particular region. They are kept in an artificial habitat. So the plants and animals which are found naturally, you don't have to import it from somewhere else. Naturally, if they occur in a particular area and exclusively they are found in that area and no other place, then it is known as an endemic species. Example, the wild mongoose, the bison, the Indian giant squirrel, then flying squirrel. These are all endemic to Pachmarhi Biosphere Reserves. So you can see this mongoose, bison and the flying squirrel in a picture. Then come to endangered animals. Now, animals whose numbers are diminishing to a level that they might face extinction are known as endangered animals. Now, endangered animals are very few in number. Such less their number is that if they are not protected by human beings, their population may become extinct. They may become extinct if they are left to themselves and rampant poaching and killing of these organisms go on. So therefore, they need special protection. So such animals are, you all must be knowing, it is tiger, wild buffalo and Barasingha. Then come to Red Data Book. What is this? It is the source book which keeps a record of all the endangered animals and plants. You can see this cover page is entirely red. It is a kind of danger sign that if they do not get protection, they are going to disappear from the earth. It's high time we should take care of such animals. So this is all about our forest for conservation of forest and wild animals. And whatever conservation methods we have seen is entirely done by the government, like the protected areas which are earmarked by the government. This much area is for wildlife sanctuary, this much area is for the national park, this much area is for the biosphere reserve. But what we can do from our side to protect these wild animals and plants? First, the 4R plan, that is reduce, reuse, recover. See, paper that we use, which is a very common thing, is nothing but a product of forest only. So we need to consume less paper, and we should recycle the paper or reuse the paper, reduce the use of paper, or recover it and then use it once again. So the next is, what we can do at our end is, we can plant more and more trees. We don't have to take anybody's permission. That is in our hand to grow more trees and to take care of them. And the third is, be compassionate towards animals. We should show compassion towards those animals, because that is how we can do our part in conserving wildlife and the conservation of the plants and animals. Thank you.